By 1914, Europe had enjoyed a century of relative peace, while peace efforts were underway, like the first modern Olympic Games in 1896, the first Universal Peace Conference in 1899. Powerful forces were pushing Europe towards war. Spurred by distrust of one another, the great powers of Europe signed treaties pledging to defend one another. Instead of promoting peace by creating powerful combinations that no one would dare attack, they created two huge alliances. In 1882, Bismarck formed the Triple Alliance with Italy and Austria-Hungary. When war did erupt in 1914, Germany and Austria-Hungary fought on the same side. They became known as the Central Powers. In 1893, France and Russia formed an alliance. In 1904, France and Britain signed an entente. When war began, these powers became known as the Allies. World War I began when Archduke Francis Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary was assassinated. The regional conflict between tiny Serbia and the huge empire of Austria-Hungary grew rapidly into general war. After Austria's declaration of war, Serbia turned to its ally, Russia. The Tsar of Russia asked the Kaiser to urge Austria to soften its demands. When this plea failed, Russia began to prepare its military for war. On August 1st, Germany responded by declaring war on Russia. Russia, in turn, appealed to its ally France. When Germany demanded that France should keep out of the conflict, France refused. Germany then declared war on France. Germany's location presented the possibility of a two-front war against France in the west and Russia to the east. Germany created the Schlieffen Plan to avoid this problem. The Schlieffen Plan reasoned that Germany should move against France first because Russia's lumbering military would be too slow to mobilize. To do this, Germany had to defeat France quickly so that its armies could then mobilize around and fight Russia. To ensure victory in the West, the Schlieffen Plan required German armies to march through neutral Belgium and then swing south behind French lines. The goal was to encircle and crush France's army. Germany embarked on this plan on August 3rd. After Germans invaded Belgium, Britain declared war on Germany. Eventually, the Schlieffen Plan had failed. Russia mobilized more quickly than expected. In September 1914, British and French troops pushed back German troops along the Marne River. The first battle of the Marne River ended Germany's hopes for a quick victory on the Western Front.
No way I'm gonna lose, German!
Both sides then began to dig deep trenches to protect their armies from fierce enemy fire. The conflict turned into a long, deadly stalemate. The battle lines in France remained unchanged for 4 years. During the war, warfare began to modernize. The rapid-fire machine gun, long-range artillery gun, poisonous gas, and tanks were all developed and used. The war was drastically changed when America exchanged neutrality for war in 1917. By 1918, about 2 million American soldiers had joined the war-weary Allied troops fighting on the Western Front. Although relatively few American troops engaged in combat, their arrival gave the Allied troops a much-needed moral boost. Just as important as the debt-ridden Allies, the American financial aid, though had failed to maintain American neutrality, President Wilson still hoped to be a peacemaker. In January 1918, he issued the 14 Points, a list of terms for resolving this and future wars. He called for freedom of the seas, free trade, larger-scale reductions of army, and an end to secret treaties. For Western Europe, Wilson favored self-determination, the right of people to choose their own form of government. Finally, Wilson urged the creation of a General Association of Nations to keep the peace in the future. A final showdown on the Western Front began in early 1918. The Germans badly wanted to achieve their major victory before eager American troops arrived in Europe. In March, Germans launched a huge offensive that by July had pushed the Allies back 40 miles. These efforts exhausted the Germans. However, by the American troops were arriving by the thousands. The Allies then launched a counterattack, slowly driving German forces across France and Belgium. In September, German generals told the Kaiser that the war could not be won. German generals advised the Kaiser to step down. William II did so in early November, fleeing to exile in the Netherlands. The German government sought an armistice or agreement to end the fighting with the Allies. Finally, on November 11, 1918, the Great War came to an end.